77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to Friday night. My name is Ken Matthews. I'm thrilled to be back in for Mr. Stone in the Stone Zone because there was so much stuff going on today. All that Supreme Court stuff. You know, normally the SCOTUS decisions are so stretched out or they're so fragmented, and you don't really get a sense of any progress, or there's confusion, or sometimes there's a meeting and then they have a decision and then there's arguments. But we actually had some decisions wrap up today, some biggies. We had the birthright citizenship decision, which was very, very complicated. I don't think it should be, but then I'm not an attorney. I just think that if you are an American citizen and you birth a child or participate in that birth, then your child should be an American citizen. That's it. See, it would be like 3 lines with me. It wouldn't be like what it is. Go look it up. Go look up all the statutes on it. It's crazy. This whole concept, of, and the decision wasn't actually about the birthright. It was about putting injunctions against these people trying to argue with the Constitution. And, of course, now we have this power struggle between, or so we think, between the executive and the judicial branch and the legislative branch. But let me get back to my birthright theory, and you can weigh in on it if you'd like. 800-848-9222. That's the number for the Stone Zone. So no matter where you are today, if you're in New York, Phoenix, Asheville, Texarkana, we've got something for you. We've got some fascinating statistics that you won't even believe about your own town. And in addition to that, we're just going to kind of touch on some of the decisions that I thought there were some good decisions today, and I have one that I'm a little concerned about. And maybe we can walk through it, because I'm a big free speech guy, but you know that Texas will now be allowed to use ID for 18-year-olds with porn. I don't know if that came out right, but it's the child ID process now that you have to have proof of identification if you're on a website and it's an adult website. I think that's a good thing, but everybody says, well, it's going to lead to more censorship or more surveillance or digital tracking. And to that, I say, too late. Too late. You've already given your DNA to the DNA people, and what is it called? Ancestry, whatever. And then you're doing that, and then you're using your eye scan and your fingerprint and your voice. And look at all the people that got a COVID. You got that COVID test. It's amazing because, you know, mom's in the supermarket. She's making sure that the yogurt she gets has the right ratio of oranges and different vitamins and supplements. And then she drives from the supermarket, stops at the back of Kmart or Walmart, and if someone's if they look like a doctor, they can put a swab in her nose. So we've given up a lot of our privacy already. The question is about the ruling that does not prevent a state from forcing children to produce ID if they're on an adult website. The reason I go back and forth on that. Now, both of my kids are in their 20s now, so I have no clue what they're doing at this very moment. I mean, I have no clue where they are right now, actually. But they are adults. They are adults. But think about this. Think about all the parents that, well, they're just not that good of parents. And my question would be, how is your 12-year-old getting on a porn site? Where is he getting on a porn site? What is going on with you as a parent? I know this is going to trigger some people, but at the end of the day, are we ever going to take responsibility for how we raise our kids? Is that ever going to happen? Well, you know, kids today, they're buying meth and watching porn, and then they got to do their 4th grade homework. How's that even happening? What is going on? So part of me says this is a great thing, because I think it'll cut down on the early exposure of young people, because God knows if they catch any of The View or a late night show or, you know, a crime series, they're going to get a brain full of stuff. But here's the part I don't like about it. Now, the court said it's okay for Texas, and I think 21 other states are doing it. And again, I'm just giving you a brief thumbnail sketch of some of the decisions today. Then we'll hear some reactions. We'll hear some leftists melting down, some anger, some hypocrisy, and some raw comedy. Because I have to say that despite everything that's happening this week, I have really gotten a lot of pleasure out of watching Democrats. I don't know about you, but look, it was a long 4 years under Corn Pop. But here's my worry about that. My worry is that it's because they're needing ID for that, it's going to push further into getting IDs for content. Let me explain what I mean. It's not like, oh no, now if you're an adult, you have to prove you're an adult if you want to watch, you know. No, my concern is that if some regulating agency in a particular state labels something on the website as adult content, now you've lost a large chunk of your audience if you earn your living that way, and now they're censoring. So somebody might think adult content is a bunch of chicks running around in bikinis at the pool. But, you know, your son may be at a pool party right now like that, and he might be 13. And you know some of those 13-year-olds, right? So I want to drill down deeper into that when I have a chance to look at the actual ruling. Now, the other Supreme Court justice thing that I was really happy about, and I saw these arguments, most of them live. I saw this argument. It's in my pile of preparation here. By the way, you're tuned to the Stone Zone. My name's Ken Matthews, and I'm in for Roger tonight. Very excited to be on. I'm on various social media platforms. Combined, I probably have about 11, maybe 13, 12 or 13 followers. So if you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram or something and just bump it up, I'd love to get like 22 people that cared. That would be great. So the other thing was, do you remember in Maryland, and this went on for over a year. Wow, I've got so much show prep tonight. Holy moly. Ah, here it is. Let me just see if I can find it. There it is. Supreme Court sides with parents who object to kids' books on gender identity and sexuality. Now, I am thrilled with that decision. Here's why. Because as I was watching these arguments and these discussions with the Supreme Court justices, and I have to admit, some of them come off like, but some of them asked some very good questions. One thing that came out during the arguments, all these people, maybe you have some liberal friends, maybe you still have some liberals left in your family. I don't know, what are you doing for July 4th? Do they have to stay in the car? I don't know. But these liberals would make things up and say, you know, MAGA people and conservatives and Christians, they're going into schools, they're burning books. They don't even want to teach our kids about, you know, sexual health or you know, sex education. And they're 14 or 15. This is an outrage. No. The problem in this lawsuit was there were books toward or aimed at kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade. And the content of that was, hey, you don't need to be a boy or a girl. You can be whatever you want to be. And if you're in second grade and you're a girl, but you want to be a boy, well, there's ways you can do that. This is what it was. It was raw, pure indoctrination on gender identity and sexuality to children which were just out of nursery school and kindergarten. And once that was shown to the court, I think that's what move the court in that direction, because I listened to both sides and there were compelling arguments, because I don't think, just like with DEI, just like with the history of slavery, I don't think this stuff should be banned. I just don't think it should be forced on people not prepared mentally or physically to process it. In the case of sexuality, I don't know if you should be telling a second grader, or a 7 or 8 year old about, Bruce Jenner dresses like a lady. I don't think you should be doing that. And just like I don't think you should be forcing really heavy history on very young people. It's never been a case, just so you know. And most MAGA people, you guys know what I'm talking about. Conservatives know what I'm talking about. It's common sense. Of course we need to know about history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the greatest country in the world. It's not perfect. We've had some spots in our history. We've had some dark times in our history. We are working to erase those. We can never completely erase them, but we're one of the few countries that has made good on promises regarding our mistakes over the years. Nevertheless, again, do we really need to be teaching second and third graders about sex and transgenderism and slavery and how bad the white man is? I don't think so. So a lot of this came up in that argument, and this was the issue. It was driven by the gender issue, but this is why I'm glad the court ruled, basically, if you do not want your child in that class, you can take your child out. See, nobody said don't teach it. Nobody said burn the books. The only thing I said as a parent, and both my kids are in their 20s now, was, look, my 5-year-old son doesn't need to see this, okay? Life's going to be hard enough without you introducing that, whatever it is, to him or her. So, and he is a biological boy, by the way. 800-848-9222. I think that's pretty much it for the Supreme. Let me squeeze in one little meltdown here. And this probably shocked the person on MSNBC, because this is MSNBC and they actually say it's going to be good for Trump. And then they go and blow it by saying Trump's a big fat meanie.
Reaction, Melissa, to this ruling?
I think this is a really huge win for the Trump administration. I'm glad that we're talking about it in those terms, because I think one of the great fears with this case was that if the court did not say anything about the substance and scope of the 14th Amendment, media would say that the court had saved birthright citizenship. The court has not saved birthright citizenship. It simply kicked that can down the line and made the legal conditions under which a future suit over birthright citizenship can actually be resolved. Leah is exactly right. This is a huge win for the Trump administration, because the court has essentially kneecapped lower courts from stopping this administration when it engages in lawless and unconstitutional behavior.
See what she did there? Yeah, kneecapped them when they, they're allowed now. Trump can be lawless and blah, 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 blah. Like the Democrats weren't over the line so many times. One thing that I feel bad about, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, 800-848-9222. Call into the Stone Zone and let me know. You do know that the whole 14th Amendment, the whole birthright citizenship, was because slaves and indigenous people have and had every right, once we corrected our mistakes, to be citizens of the United States, to get that protection and that respect. And it breaks my heart that so many people around the world keep taking advantage of it. What say you? We'll be right back on the Red Apple Audio Networks in the Stone Zone.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
Greg Kelly here for Colonial Metals Group. China's leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II, one that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Kelly or call 800-655-5186 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
How can you not love it when the President of the United States says, he's no baby? He's clean, too. Roger's clean. We talked about that the last time I was guest hosting. It's great to be back. My name is Ken Matthews, and the number's 800-848-9222, the Red Apple Audio Networks. Love to hear you weigh in on that, especially not so much the minutia of birthright citizenship, but the whole raising kids. First of all, hats off to any parent. If you're a new parent, old parent, young parent, I had no idea the responsibility and the work it takes to birth a mammal. My wife did that, but I helped and then raise them. And now with the digital realm, which we're going to talk about in a second, because, a lot of people are talking about this big, beautiful bilk, and I call it a bilk, not a bill, because I'm not a fan of that bill. I know, the memo went out. I'm supposed to, march in lockstep with MAGA. I don't all the time. I support President Trump, but I have to be honest, having read vast parts of the bill, there's parts in it that really bother me. First of all, adding $10 trillion in more national debt is just going to destroy our futures. It's not going to hurt rich people's futures. They don't have a problem with the national debt. That could be $70 trillion, and there'll be a handful of people that are wealthy enough to weather it. So they're not going to care. And the other thing that really bothers me in that bill, and there's a variety of things, is how Congress will soon be, and this is part of the bill, whether they voted on this or not, or taken it out yet, just so you know, inside is the removal of states' rights to regulate AI. And that jumped out at me for the next 10 years. And then I went a little deeper and I said, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean 10 years? Do you know that Donald Trump brought in $500 billion for the Stargate AI grid? And they're building all this AI infrastructure. They're going to be the best in the world. It's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful, right? I'm not a fan of AI. I'm not a fan of digital currency or cybercoin either. Just letting you know. But the fact that if Congress votes on this, you should call your congressperson and say, hey, do you know about that thing where our state can't decide how or when or where we use AI? Because it's in there. And that's a real problem. That tells me that the people at the top, maybe it's someone that's with Palantir. Look up Palantir. That's the company that's going to be running our lives soon. Maybe they might be in your brain now. I'm not sure. Or maybe there's something in my brain. I don't know what it is. But look it up. But there's a lot of stuff in that bill, in addition to more spending, typical Rhino Republican stuff. And I hope it doesn't pass. We'll be back in the Stone Zone with your calls.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone. Thanks again for tuning in. 800-848-9222. Producer said they just got an angry call about my comment about the bill not passing. Look out, everybody! Look out! Look, I've read enough of the bill to know I do not like it. And I'm tired as a conservative and as a Republican and as a guy who voted for and supported and voted for and elected Trump 3 times. And then they stole it from us right in front. They stole it right in front of us, but he's back now. And then the Republicans do what they always do. They're all rah, rah, go, go, Trump, Trump, MAGA, MAGA. Okay. And then when the rubber hits the road, well, we're not going to cut that. We're not going to cut that. Look at that. Here's another article that just came out. I think it's LA Times. I'm not sure. Republicans rage over Senate's watered-down version of the bill, the big, beautiful bill. It starts out as, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to cut. It's going to be great. There's going to be unicorns and rainbows and little huggy bears for everybody. But again, we're going to lose privacy. There'll be more censorship. There's more surveillance. The last thing I want is more taxes where they shouldn't be, and some of them are being moved around. Now, what am I excited about? I'm excited that we got rid of the electric car mandate. I'm excited that we're getting rid of all this woke garbage. That's great. But it doesn't change the fact that every year Republicans keep spending. They help the Democrats because it's kind of a uniparty. That probably triggered that same caller. But anyway, at the end of the day, when you put everybody in the room and they get in there with the lobbyists, they do what they're told. And let me give you an example of that. Let me see if I can find that here. I've got where is it? I just saw it. Oh, this is a great example. Okay, great example. And I don't know if you heard this. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, very interesting player, but certainly pro-Trump and pro-MAGA. No matter what it's just like when I talk to people about Trump and I say, no matter what you think about Trump, he loves America, and he pretty much follows up on what he says he's going to do. Now, do Republicans do that? Not that much. Do Democrats do it? Not that much. Does your senator do it? Probably not. How about your representative? Nah. Trump does it because he knows he's under the gun. He knows this is his final chance at this, and I really think he loves America. So I was listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Steve Bannon, which I guess some of the Republican Party has put out the memo not to like Steve Bannon anymore for some reason, or not to like MTG because she disagreed with Trump on something. So I don't play those games. I look at things at face value and commonsensically. And I can support Trump and rally for Trump and still disagree with him on some issues, like I did on the vaccine. But that's for another day. So I want you to hear this because I found it fascinating that MTG just went off. Well, here it is.
Well, I got to add on one more thing, Steve, and I'm sure you've covered it on your show. Mark Levin was one of the biggest never-Trumpers when President Trump was running for president. So it absolutely makes me sick. It makes me want to throw up in my mouth that he's one of the voices that is constantly texting and calling President Trump's phone and showing up at the White House demanding for America to go to every single foreign war on behalf of Israel. You know, I'm really sick and disgusted at that. And it's people like him and Lindsey Graham and all these other people that never really supported Trump in the beginning. People like me, regular people like me, donated to President Trump. We showed up at his rallies. We voted for him. We truly supported him. I've supported him the entire time. Mark Levin was a never-Trumper, compared President Trump, claimed that he was the same as Code Pink. All of this horrible attacks on President Trump, and he only supports him now because he couldn't beat him, because people like me supported President Trump and got him elected. And Steve, I've spent 5 years. I've spent millions of dollars, millions of my own money, traveling this entire country campaigning for President Trump, defending him when everyone abandoned him after January 6th. And I would say I represent MAGA far more than Mark Levin or any of these other neocon suck-ups ever will and ever do.
You know what I like about that? It's something we have in America, and I think a lot of people are forgetting this, especially the Democrats, but most people in media forget this. That's called free speech. And I appreciated her free speech because what happens is there are different teams in the media, and they are going to keep information from you or show you only certain information. And if you want to make informed decisions and be a critical thinker, it's good to have all the moving parts. And if you look at inflection points in this country, like stolen elections or January 6th or the first Trump election, and you think back to the people that wouldn't get near Trump with a 10-foot pole And then within weeks of those polls changing, and then within minutes of him getting elected, I saw some of the most two-faced politicians. They were groveling toward the man because they know he did start a movement. It is unlike the Barack Obama or the Joe Biden farce, or even Hillary. I mean, they were saying Hillary was going to win and, clean Trump's clock in 2016. Remember Rachel Maddow? Remember her losing it on the air? She said Hillary's going to win like 97%. And I was sitting here in Pennsylvania at the time, and I said, what? Are you kidding me? Trump's got this. Because the people in the media and most of the politicians, they don't get out on the street. They listen to lobbyists, they listen to lawyers, they listen to pollsters, they listen to focus groups. You should try hanging out at a Walmart just for an hour. Just hit all the different aisles. Do a little shopping, talk to people. Maybe try this. If more people in politics had to change their oil or maybe fix their water pump, they wouldn't be so stupid. A lot of people in politics are stupid. And yet we keep electing them. I mean, look at what's going on in New York. Holy moly. We're going to talk about that population in a second, the New York population. But I just wanted to bring that fact up that I think people forget. We have to be very careful of people that come to the party a little bit late and want something from the party, whoever they may be. And when I say party, we could be talking political party. For example, look at all the people. I know all of you know somebody in this audience. You all know someone in this audience that probably was a fair weather Trumper. And they were all Ted Cruz-y, or they were all, dare I say this, Jeb Bush. Ugh. Can you imagine electing another Bush? How crazy do you have to be to say, his dad did such a great job and W did such a great job. Let's bring in another one. No. And people on the ground knew better. But people in the media and people in law firms, they thought differently. I want to go over to CNN, and they're laughing at the notion of Donald Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize, because if things go as planned, and I'm talking about President Trump's plan that he has shared, and that is, we'll hit them so hard, we'll ring their bell so hard, we'll get rid of the nuke capability in Iran, and then hopefully they'll come to the bargaining table now. And there seems to be it's a fragile one, but it is a ceasefire, right? So several people already have nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize. And this is what was happening on CNN.
Well, I think what Democrats are doing is what they should be doing, which is, like you said, raising questions about what exactly, not just what does the intelligence say, but what does the administration actually believe happened, to your point, to everyone's point. That's what really matters. And I think what the problem with the obsession with the word obliterate or obliteration, right? You can kind of equate it to when Bush said mission accomplished, because it all came back to, well, no, it wasn't. And in fact, we know that the mission wasn't accomplished. If the mission was to absolutely ascertain and say definitively that Iran is not going to obtain a nuclear weapon, that didn't happen. And so it takes away, frankly, from what the administration's message should be, which is we did a lot to keep Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, and now let's figure out what more needs to be done. But that's not happening. Now we're focused on the word, and we're obsessed with, okay, well, what now?
Secondarily, it did bring an end to the 12-day war with Israel, which is a positive.
I like that you're calling it the 12-day war. Like, you're on it. Is that the official?
Sure. And I mean, look, and Donald Trump went to NATO. He obviously had a successful week there. There's a lot to be celebrated over the course of the last week in terms of hopefully a diplomatic solution, and talk again about giving Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, Audie.
You heard it here.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that deep-throated laughter? I love that. And here's something I love about Donald Trump. And, especially people, depending on where you live or if you've met him before or you've seen him on the stump, He has a tremendous sense of humor. And I don't know if it's because he intimidates people or why this they're always laughing at him and not with him. And he's a very smart, Alec, gregarious person. And I want to just bring back a quick memory. And when I was preparing the show today, I thought, I want to just play something back here in the Stone Zone of people laughing at Donald Trump, and you tell me how it worked out. Now, you're going to remember almost all of these voices, and as a Trump supporter and a supporter of the president now and someone who loves this country, I love hearing this. And I remember when they were putting these montages together, I said, we should play these when he's elected the second time, and here we are.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address in no part...
This was one of my favorites, okay? One of my favorites. This is Barack, the man who led Obamunism, and listen to his response. I think this is Matt Lauer. What's Matt Lauer up to lately? Anyway, listen to this. Remember when President Barack Obama said this? You talk about arrogance.
Part of your mind or brain, can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And
you know who just said that? That was the Native American lady, Elizabeth Warren. Yes, the Native American. She said he'll never be president. And it's just Democrat after Democrat after Democrat after celebrity after Democrat.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next.
I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on to Matthew Dowd.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer...
This is one of my favorites. We'll wrap it up with this one. This is one of my faves. This is Stephen Colbert. All right? And people need to do this more often, even if you have to do it on your own. If you think that the media's beating up Trump or they're beating up your country or whatever, just go back and look at how much crow, and I'm saying crow only because FCC regulations will not let me say anything else. So just think of all the crow these people have had to eat over the years and how much is documented, how foolish they were and how wrong they were.
Answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. But come on, buddy. All, let's say, cow poo-poo aside, there is zero chance we'll be seeing you being sworn in on the Capitol steps with your hand on a giant golden Bible.
I'll make a prediction, though, for you.
Ronald Reagan's son. Remember Ronald Reagan's son?
I don't really get into predictions much, but this one I'll go way out on a limb. Donald Trump will never, ever be president of the United States.
Do you realize the arrogance and the elitism that would have to possess you to say that consistently? And the man won in 2016, 2020, and 2024, and every time it was a larger margin. By the way, Trump just said he's ending all trade talks with Canada. Not again. Gosh. And didn't they just get like another weasel? Don't they have another weasel prime minister there? President Trump says, based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. Well, hopefully something good will come out of it. You know, crazier things have happened. This is the Red Apple Audio Network's The Stone Zone, and I'm Ken Matthews.
The Stone Zone.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And for joining the conversation on the Stone Zone tonight, my name is Ken Matthews. It's great to be back filling in for Mr. Stone. The number's 800-848-9222. And one thing I wanted to mention before, because there's been all this chatter about New York, did you know there's 1.4 million Muslims in New York City, living in New York City? I did not know that. And there's about 9 million people in New York City. So that's quite the voter turnout, since we were talking earlier this week about the 33-year-old socialist, communist, Muslim mayoral candidate. So I would encourage people to get out and vote. I'll tell you that, wherever you're voting across the country, because I went to look up the New York Muslim population, and I stumbled upon the states with the top Muslim population, and I just thought I'd share it with you. Virginia, Michigan, New Jersey, Illinois, Texas is number 3. Wow. Florida's number 2. And, of course, New York is number 1. And these are old numbers. These are almost 8 years old. The rankings are still the same, but it's gone up considerably. I think things really spiked up after Joe Biden blew Afghanistan, and for a while we were just flying in illegal foreign nationals in C-130 cargo planes. Or was it the other cargo plane? I forget which one. What was the one they were hanging on? What was the one that was trying to take off? I forget that one. But that to me is the picture of Joe Biden I'll always have in my mind. Him and General Milley with a rainbow flag. That, to me, represents the stamina and courage of the Biden regime. How many people like fireworks? Because I wanted to do a fireworks thing because I'm still 13 years old mentally when it comes to fireworks. Did you know that Los Angeles, this made me crack up, but I guess it's me. It's the number 1 illegal firework capital in the United States. And I'm thinking there's a joke in there somewhere with the immigration stuff and, but one of the top problems they have in Los Angeles are people making DIY fireworks. Now, see, when I was growing up, they called that a bomb. But I guess you're allowed to make DIY fireworks in Los Angeles. They cut you a little slack. But last year, and this is nothing to laugh about, 15,000 Americans were treated for firework-related injuries. And in 2025 alone, one of the most awesome firefighting organizations, CAL FIRE, second only to FDNY, they confiscated more than 500,000 pounds of illegal fireworks. So illegal fireworks is a big, big thing. In fact, they think it's going to get worse over the coming years. And again, I just can't get over that definition of illegal DIY fireworks. But the article goes on to say, and this is so true, there are so many great Latinas and Latinos and Hispanics that are incredible patriots and love America, and they like to make a big show of it. I don't know what neighborhood you live in, but we have a few fireworks in our neighborhood, but we don't do a lot of DIY stuff. And you never, ever, ever want to take anything like that when you're traveling or anywhere near an airport. I just wanted to tell you that. Grandma and Grandpa, don't forget. Don't say, we got Timmy some great fireworks. Let's put them in our overnight bag and take them on the plane. Do not do that. We didn't have time to get to Alligator Alcatraz, but there's an abandoned airstrip in Florida that is surrounded by the Everglades. I grew up in Florida. It's a very exciting place. There's a lot of alligators. There's even crocodiles down there. And they're now going to keep illegal foreign national detainees there. And I don't know. Maybe we can get... we should certainly use a moat. I don't want anybody to get attacked by an alligator. But I love the term Alligator Alcatraz.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.